We got 4 player props, a ladder, and 3 anytime touchdowns for week 13. Let's talk some football. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back in to another episode for Just a Bet Outside. I am your host, Steven, and we're here to talk some NFL player props. That's right, for week 13 this year is flying by. Quick reminder, if you're looking for the best game bets, we went 3-0 on them last week. That video is also out now. Go check it out. We also give the trends out for this weekend and recap Turkey Day. But before we get anything, let's talk Outlier. Any graphics you see in this video will be from an app called Outlier. It is the best player prop research tool on the market. I mention it all the time. All you have to do if you want to try it out, click the link below in the description. You get a 7-day free trial. Outlier has been a huge help for me this season, as you guys know. So let's get into it, and that means it's NFL fun fact time. Here we go. This is from a Chicago sports fan, by the way, at Chicago Golf Pro in the Discord. So you can't make fun of me, but Chicago fans, I apologize. Since September 15th, the Bears have 3 wins and the White Sox had 7 wins. And in fact, if you look up all Chicago sports teams, it is brutal right now for you guys. So I feel bad for you. But congratulations, you just fired your head coach. So step in the right direction at least. But in this video, we're going to recap Friday Night Football. We don't usually have a recap on these videos, but we'll recap that Chiefs and Raiders game. And then we'll give you our best NFL player props, that ladder parlay, and then our 3 anytime touchdowns for week 13. And of course, we'll finish it with the recap. So hit that like button if you haven't already. Leave a comment below. Continues to help this channel to grow. It's all thanks to you guys. I appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button as we're on our way to 34,000 subscribers and we're having a lot of fun doing it. So let's get this started. And that means it's recap time. All right, here's the quick Friday Night Football recap. Again, the Thursday night recap was in the NFL Week 13 game bets video, but this one, it's quick and simple. We got a profitable night. That's right. Brock Bowers, 40-plus receiving yards, went over 100. Jacoby Myers, 5-plus receptions, did it in the first half, and Mahomes threw a passing touchdown. A very, very easy winner for plus 124. And we go 0 for 2 in the last 2 weeks on Travis Kelce touchdown. He just does not get it done, but still, we profited a little bit now on a 17-7 run. There's the overall record. Every Sunday night on that Monday Night Football video, we break down everything, player props, game bets, anytime touchdowns, how we've been doing and all that if you're looking for the entire weekend recap. But there it is, up 4.63 units, and now it's time for the player props. All right, this first one is a running back prop. Give me Jaylen Warren over 38.5 rush yards at minus 113 on FanDuel for 1 unit. He is a running back for the Steelers, if you don't know. I kind of learned the hard way betting on Najee Harris that Jaylen Warren is a huge part of this backfield, and he's been pretty dang good. So let's dive into Outlier now and check out some of these numbers. So 2024, you can see Najee's crushing it. He's over this in the last 5 games. So with that, let's just go look at the last 5 and kind of analyze what's been going on here. So as you can see, he's averaging 48.4 yards per game. That's 10 over this, by the way. Yep, I did the math for you. And so if we scroll down a little bit, we can look at even more numbers. You look at rush attempts first. He's averaging 11 rush attempts per game in the last 5. His line is set at 10.5, so we're expecting right around 11 rush yards again. He's averaging, if you go over to average rush yards, 2 over from that, you can see he's averaging 4.4 yards per attempt. Yards after contact, you can see as well. And if you go over there, you can see he's averaging 17.2 yak per game. That's right. So that's what you like to see. Obviously, he's breaking some tackles and all that. So even if this was a slightly below average game on the ground, at 10 carries, 4 yards a carry, you're looking at 40 and we cash. I mean, we're just talking needing an average game at this low of a line, and I'm expecting a few more carries. The way he's been running the ball, we'll talk about in a second, but I'm also expecting more than 4 yards per carry in this one. But let's look at the matchup over there real quick. You can see the Bengals. They've allowed the 14th most rush yards per game, about average when you look at that, but most teams are passing all over them. That's some of that reason why, but they're also about average in rush yards per attempt per game. Overall, an average matchup, but then you break it down even more. They're 31st in success rate versus the run, one of the worst tackling teams in the NFL. So let's talk Mr. Jaylen Warren versus Najee Harris, the somewhat split backfield. So Jaylen Warren has been on the field for 100 snaps. Najee Harris is 109 in the last 3 games. Now, obviously, some of those are for running, pass blocking. That doesn't help us, but just want to point out that he is playing more. Harris got 16 carries to Jaylen Warren's 11 last week, so he is closing the gap here. The coaches have talked about wanting to use him more, and it's not even been close who's been better, and I mean that. Like, last 3 games, yards per carry, let's look at this. Najee Harris, 2.5, 3.5, and 2.6 yards per carry. Jaylen Warren, 4.7, 4.6, and 4.1 yards per carry. All 3 of his weeks have been higher than Najee's highest week. And if you look at it, Najee has 157 total yards in the last 3 weeks. Jalen Warren has 152 total yards. We're talking rush yards. Sorry. He has 5 less rush yards on 21 less carries. It hasn't even been close. The eye test says it. Jalen Warren is the much more explosive back. I'm expecting Warren to push this even closer to a 50-50 split here. I think this number is just way too low, especially in a pretty decent matchup. So give me Jalen Warren over 38.5 rush yards as my first best bet. All right, this second one is a receiving yards prop. Give me Taysom Hill of the New Orleans Saints over 28.5 receiving yards, minus 113 on FanDuel for 1 unit. I saw this firsthand when I picked I took a best bet for the Browns to beat the Saints, and Taysom Hill went absolutely crazy. The Browns could not stop him. But let's talk Taysom in the last 3 weeks. 8 receptions for 50 yards on 10 targets last week. This man had 10 targets, and we're getting a receiving line of 28.5. 2 receptions on 36 yards on 2 targets before that. But keep in mind in that game against Atlanta, I think it was, he had a 88-yard touchdown catch that was brought back because of a penalty as well. Then he had 4 receptions for 41 yards on 5 targets, over in 3 straight. 67 yards after catch in the last 3 games. It'd be way more, of course, after if he would have got that 88-yard touchdown. But after Dennis Allen got fired, the Saints coaching staff wanted to get Taysom Hill more involved. In fact, let me just quote you from the new interim coach, Darren Rizzi, I don't know how you pronounce it, after last week. We want to continue using Hill in the offense. The more he has been on the field, the better we have been. I'm just saying. I'm just taking the words from the coach. And they don't lie, of course. Never. But no Rashid Shaheed, no Chris Olave means he is going to be a huge part of this offense. He's a tight end, but he's kind of the jack of all trades. He will catch screen passes. He will catch balls over the middle. He'll go one-on-one outside. He kind of just does it all, to be honest with you. But the Rams 23rd versus tight ends and receiving yards allowed this season. We're talking about a guy who I expect to get 5-6 plus targets, at least in this game. And we just need 29 receiving yards. I absolutely love it. I think the books are a little slow to adjust Taysom Hill's new role in this offense with the new coaching staff. So give me King of the Hill over 28.5 receiving yards as my second best bet. All right, this third one is another receiving prop by a running back. Give me Saquon Barkley over 16.5 receiving yards at minus 120 on Bet365. This is a 1 unit play, and I absolutely love it. I almost took Saquon's under rush yards instead. It's getting close to like 90 to 100 range, but I'm going to stick with this one. I really like it. So he's facing his toughest test on the ground versus the #1 rush defense in Baltimore in the NFL. But I honestly think that means they're going to use him more in the passing game. They struggle mightily to cover running backs out of the backfield. So let's talk about this Ravens defense. Giving up the 4th most receiving yards to the running back position, giving up an average of 8.67 yards per completion to running backs, if I could talk. That is huge. I mean, we're talking almost 9 yards every time a running back catches it out of the backfield. Saquon may just need 1 or 2 catches here, but running backs versus the Baltimore Ravens lately, J.K. Dobbins, 19 receiving yards in only 1/2 because he got hurt, but still went over. Najee Harris, 30 receiving yards. That's the 3rd most he's ever had in a game this season. Chase Brown, how about 9 catches for 52 yards? Javonte Williams had 42 receiving yards. Rashad White, 71 receiving yards. Bucky Irving, 54. That's right. 2 Bucs running backs had a total of 125 receiving yards. 6 of the last 7 teams have had at least 1 running back go over this line versus Baltimore. This line is just too low, especially the way the Philadelphia Eagles are using Saquon out of the backfield a little bit more. They're going to need to get creative because, like I said, he is going to have some plays where he's just running into a brick wall. He's not used to that. He's had a really easy matchup in regards to run defenses. Not saying that's why he's playing well. He's unbelievable, but they're going to have to get him the ball in space, and I think that means some screen passes and just some routes out of the backfield to get him the ball. Whatever it is, crossers, because this Ravens team struggles to defend that as well. So Barkley is over this line in 3 of the last 4 games pretty easily. 40, 52, and 47 receiving yards on 4, 3, and 4 targets. If we get 4 targets, I would be absolutely shocked if he does not get us over this line because that will not take much, especially with how many yards the Ravens are giving up per catch. But we're pretty much asking the most explosive player in the entire NFL to get 17 plus yards through the air in a great matchup, something he just did 3 straight very easily. So give me Mr. Barkley over 16.5 receiving yards as my 3rd best bet. All right, this 4th one is an alt line parlay. Give me Nico Collins, 60 plus receiving yards, and Bucky Irving, 40 plus rush yards for 1 unit at minus 111 on FanDuel. Again, this is 2 different games in case you don't know. Nico Collins plays for the Texans. Bucky Irving plays for the Buccaneers. So let's start out with Mr. Nico. He's obviously CJ Stroud's #1 guy. The numbers since his injury look actually lower than they should be, but 78, 54, and 92 receiving yards. So he's still done really well, but he was on a snap count the first game, a little bit on the second game as well. But this is what's crazy if you watch their games. He's had 110 total yards and 2 touchdowns taken back from offensive penalties. So his numbers could be through the roof right now, and I think that's why we're getting a little bit of a discount. One was on a legal motion, another one on an ineligible man downfield. Nothing that really would have affected or what happened, but he had 9 targets last week for 5 receptions and 92 yards versus a good Titans pass defense. And now he gets an absolute dream matchup versus the Jaguars. We've talked about this all year. In this first game against the Jags, how about 151 receiving yards? Just absolutely tore him up. And now there's no Stephon Diggs, obviously, for the Texans. But Jaguars pass defense, allowing the 4th most receiving yards to the wide receiver position. They are also allowing the most 20-plus and 40-plus yard plays in the league. It has not been pretty for them. And obviously, Nico's a big play guy. He could get a 50-yard bomb and get a big chunk of this right off the bat. Other than the first 2 games back from injury, he had 86-plus yards in every single game this season. And he had one game where he actually should have made it even more, but obviously penalties ruined it. But I'd be shocked if he didn't hit 60-plus. I think he's got a chance to go 100-plus in this game, to be honest. I don't mind his over 83.5 rush yard or receiving yards as well. So give me Nico for 60-plus. As my first leg of this parlay. Second one, Bucky Irving, 40-plus rush yards. He is the best running back on Tampa out of the backfield, at least when running the ball wise. So last 2 weeks, 12 and 13 carries for 73 and 87 yards versus the Giants and the 49ers, averaging 5.6 and 7.3 yards per carry. And in fact, it's not just a fluke, guys. This guy is averaging about 5.5 yards per carry this season. If you watch him play, he's explosive. He is fun to watch. When Bucky gets 9-plus carries this season, he's had 40-plus rush yards in 7 of the 8 games, and all we need is 40 here. His rush attempts line is set at 11.5, so we're expecting, and I expect 12-plus carries again in this one, facing a Carolina defense that is absolutely awful. Bucky may get 40-plus rush yards in the first half, to be honest with you, but the Panthers given up the most rush yards to running backs in the entire NFL. If somehow he only gets 10 carries, he would just need 4 yards a carry to get to 40. Yep, I did the math again for you. You're welcome. And he's a guy who averages, like I said, like 5.5 yards per carry. I do not see him averaging 4 in this one. I see him getting some big explosive plays. I also like his original line over 55.5 as well. So you guys do whatever you want with these. Maybe you want to go the opposite way and go over the original yards or ladder it up or whatever. I'm going to play it safe, take them both down, and take an alt line parlay. So give me Nico 60-plus receiving yards and Bucky Irving 40-plus rush yards as my 4th and final bet on this video until we get to those touchdowns, of course. But before we get to those TDs, let's talk the ladder parlay. All right, it's time for that ladder parlay. I got 2 legs. It's plus 536. I'm going to throw a quarter unit on it. Give me Taysom Hill 40-plus receiving yards. Saquon Barkley 25-plus receiving yards. Let's get a big winner here, but I'm going to be quick because we talked about this a lot. But Taysom Hill, 40-plus receiving yards. It's 11 extra yards that we need. He's had 41 or more receiving yards in 2 of the last 3 games. The one under was at 36 yards, so he was close there. Great matchup versus the Rams team. Big play guy. Coaches want to use him. I like him to make some big plays here. Second one, Saquon Barkley, 25-plus receiving yards. He has done this in 3 of the last 4 games, 40 or more actually in 3 of the last 4. You could ladder him up even higher on its own if you want. But like I mentioned, he's being used much more out of the backfield, a guy who can get big chunk plays, and the Baltimore Ravens love to give those big chunk plays. Again, like I said, almost 9 yards per reception to the running back position. And I think his targets go up because I don't think they're going to want to run him 26 times, especially if he's just getting a couple yards of carry and that's it. It's going to be a tough thing for him to do on the ground. I'll just say that. Couldn't find my words. But anyways, that's my ladder parlay. Give me Taysom Hill, 40-plus receiving yards. Saquon Barkley, 25-plus receiving yards, a whopping plus 536. And now let's talk the anytime touchdowns. All right, we went 2-1 on the TD bets last weekend. Let's make it a 3-0 sweep. So here we go. I'm going to put a quarter unit each. This is not a parlay. I do single bets. You guys obviously do what you want. But here we go. First one is Mike Evans touchdown, plus 130 on FanDuel. So he has scored a touchdown in 4 of 8 games this season. Obviously, he was dealing with an injury, but he is back now. This will be his second game back. He only played about 60% of snaps last weekend. I'm expecting more. First, it was injury, and also it was a blowout game. So I do expect him to play more, especially if we get a competitive game. He has 6 total touchdowns in the 8 games this season. He is facing the Panthers. We've talked about it. They're terrible. They have allowed, he has actually scored 11 touchdowns in 19 games head-to-head versus Carolina. He absolutely owns this team. I expect a lot of chances for the Buccaneers to be near the goal line. Mike Evans is a guy who can score from outside the red zone as well. Give me Mr. Evans. Second one. Another receiving touchdown prop. Give me Nico Collins, who we just talked about earlier, plus 125 on DK. We're going to go back to it. We talked about why we liked his yardage earlier, but the Jags are also ranked 27th in touchdowns allowed to the wide receiver position. Obviously, they just are terrible against them in general. But he also scored a touchdown against Jacksonville earlier this season. He has 1+ touchdown in 4 of his last 6 games. With him being fully back to health as well and getting more snaps, I think he's going to have a huge game here, like we talked about already in this video. So he should score. He could score from 50 yards out. Like I said, the Jags are the team that given up the most 20+ yard plays and 40+ yard plays. He's a big red zone target, or he could score from deep, whatever it is. I like Collins to find the end zone in this one. Third one. We're going to go to a running back, James Cook, anytime touchdown for the Bills. This is -110 on Bet365. It's not plus money, but I'm shocked it's -110. This guy is a touchdown machine. He has scored 11 touchdowns this year. That's right, 11. 3 in the last 2 weeks. 49ers have allowed 16 rushing touchdowns this season. They are ranked 30th versus running back touchdowns. This is going to be a cold, bad weather game. I think they're going to lean on the run game here. It's just not usual. You see a -110 play on a guy who has 11 touchdowns. It just isn't, especially when he has a great matchup like he does. So give me James Cook, anytime touchdown, along with Nico Collins and Mike Evans. Those are my 3 separate plays. Hopefully we can get a sweep, but that's my ladder parlay also, and my player props. Any added plays, and I will probably have at least one added play before week 13 kicks off. That will be in the pinned comments below on X and on Discord. So before we get out of here, let's check out the recap. There it is. Jaylen Warren over 38.5 rush yards at -113 for a unit. Taysom Hill over 28.5 receiving yards for another unit. And then Saquon Barkley over 16.5 receiving yards for a unit. Nico Collins 60+ receiving yards. Bucky Irving 40+ rush yards as bet number 4 for a unit. And then we got that ladder parlay. We're going to sprinkle a quarter unit. Give me Taysom Hill 40+ receiving yards and Saquon 25+ receiving yards plus 536. Let's get a big winner. And then the 3 anytime touchdown bets, a quarter unit each for me. Mike Evans anytime TD at +130, Nico at +125, and James Cook at -110. That's what we got. Let's have a huge week 13. Build off that 17-7 run. Keep that momentum going. Again, the NFL Game Bets video is out now with all the trends and some sides and team totals and things that I like there. So go check that out when you get a chance. But thanks again for the support. I really appreciate it. Hope everyone has a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.